from most people are located, because it's from South Hemisphere and from Western Hemisphere, from Colombia. Javier Durango, who is the service designer, strategic director of the agency named Háptica. You don't read this first H in Spanish. So the agency Háptica, and he's going to present a very interesting case about art, about service design, about serving underprivileged communities. So it's a social cause, it's service design. And well, I should probably be stopping talking now. And Javier, I propose you introduce your case, and I'm looking forward having you. You are on mute, just in case.
Sure. Let's start then. Okay, thank you for this brief introduction. Indeed, my name is Javier Durango. I'm a service designer. I work at Háptica, and which is a service design consultancy company. So I work for I work in different projects for different clients. And tonight for you, I'm going to share with you one special project from one special client too, that I believe challenges service design for sure. So let's start. So this is a very particular project because it involves three very particular ingredients, which are the following. First of all, it involves vulnerable communities. As you may know, Latin America has severe economic and social gap, and therefore we have a lot of vulnerable communities within the cities, in peri-urban areas, and in rural areas that have sanitation and hygiene problems due to risky water practices. When you don't have a service supply service installed in your house, then it's very difficult to guarantee water use and consumption hygiene practices, because you're trying to survive, right? The second ingredient would be social art. Social art is an emerging practice that different organizations are trying to use as a participatory vehicle to address this vulnerable communities issues I already told you, by developing healthier water habits in this particular case. And the third component from this project would be a pandemic. A pandemic arrived, and now social art is having a is passing through a very difficult time, because artists can't go into these communities, and therefore it's challenging this discipline to understand how it's going to evolve into digital or remote channels. Okay, so these are the three main ingredients. Now let's understand in more depth what was the challenge of what was the context of this and the challenge that triggered this project. So One Drop is the foundation. It's a nonprofit foundation, which is our client, that is trying to impact the 6th Sustainable Development Goal from the United Nations, which is clean water and sanitation, right? By impacting communities, vulnerable communities within Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Paraguay. And something that we need to take into account is that each one of these communities have very special characteristics. Each one of them has their, of course, their social and cultural contexts, but also they have limited or none water service supply. They have limited or none internet connection. They are located sometimes in very remote areas from countries, which ends up in segregation, right? We also have another characteristic here, which are technology access. Not all these communities have access to all the technologies that we're used to have. And as the final thing I want to share to you is that, well, all these communities are having their own particular water habits. Well, understanding that each one of these communities has their own challenges, to survive and to consume water. So how is one drop impacting this sixth UN development goal for this particular communities? They're doing this through SABC, which is a concept that we will see along all the presentation, and it means social art for behavioral change, which has like 4 main components, which is address this local and social cultural context, like really getting in an emotional connection with these communities through their local myths, local culture, etc. They also are trying to generate these participatory spaces where they reflect about what are their water habits and practices, in order for them to understand like where is the problem, right? The third one would be boost healthy practices adoption. And the fourth one would be empower community leaders to effectively boost this healthy practice adoption, right? Okay, so I know this sounds a little bit complex, so I bring you here an example for you to understand how this is actually happening in these vulnerable communities. So first, the artists come into the communities to interact with them, to get to know them, to understand what is the water issue, but also to understand the social interactions within the communities, which are different in each one of them. So which are the roles within these communities, what roles are, like different roles within this community, like what are the roles from the children, from mothers, from fathers, from organizations, etc. In order for him to identify what would be the ingredients he's going to involve in his artistic intervention, participatory intervention he's going to execute. So he understands the community. After that, let's imagine he understood that the children were very important and are very influential role within a community, because in this particular community, which is in Guatemala, children go to school, they learn a lot of stuff, and then they teach all this new things into her family. So he understands these little guys are very important to diffuse information within the community. So he decided to work with them. So he involves them in the planning of an art intervention that will going to happen within the main plaza of the community. He decides to create a mural. He wants to make a mural. So he invites all these children to plan how the mural will be. So all children start to draw how this mural is going to happen. After this, he involves more people from the community to actually start building the mural, while having some reflections and starting to talk about the difficult water habits that they are having now and the new water practices that they should have. So this starts to be like very particular participatory art intervention, where the topic among their conversation is like this water issue, right? After this, so everybody is involved within this thing, and after that they install the mural within the community, which is an art object that they can see in their everyday life, right? After that, they do the last step from the art intervention, which is the presentation to the whole community, where they involve cultural items, which in this case they bring mythological snake that within their culture represents like water coming, water abundance, and agricultural abundance. So they present this mural by doing all this ritual for the community, impacting emotionally and practical and in the practice the water issue they were having. So this is one example of how social art could happen within a community. I'm bringing you some numbers here. So this was one art intervention with one community in particular. With this program in particular, they impacted 60 communities, impacting 81,000 participants, benefiting 37,000 participants with new, healthier water, sanitation, and hygiene habits. So it's pretty big, the impact that they are doing through all this vehicle. So after explaining you all this, now that you all know how social art is being executed within vulnerable communities to change some water issues and water practices. Last year, OneDrop called us and told us, hey, Háptica, we have a problem. How can artists create their local interventions when they are in a lockdown and not allowed to visit the community? Which was a very challenging brief. And then we stated the following question, which was, how can we design a, first place, digital, but in second place, participatory, but in third place, artistic service for different kind of artists and communities for behavioral change? So this was the question that triggers all this project. I want to make a small emphasis on the kind of artists. In this case, the case that I just showed you, it was a mural artist. But in this program, we could have artists that do theater, that do songs, that do all the range of artists available. So what was the answer to this question? The solution. So the solution for this was the SABC Digital Lab, which is the Social Art for Behavioral Change Digital Lab, which is, of course, a digital solution that allows artists to plan and execute experimental remote social art interventions that matches the behavioral change challenge that they have. Each particular community have their own behavioral change challenge, their art media, understanding that each artist is different, and their target community that we understand they are all different too. Within a digital platforms, artists are able to select or create different methods to address the different steps of planning and executing a social art intervention. So I know this sounds a little bit complex. I'm going to explain this in the following slide. So let's imagine. Let me move this image here. Sorry for a second. Okay. So these are the 5 steps in general that an artist passes when he is creating an art intervention. So first, he understands the community. Yeah, he identifies the local barriers, the facilitators, their context, the roles, all these things I already told you. Second, they plan the art intervention with all the plan art intervention with all the information they had in the previous phase, and they validate this with the social art behavioral change expert coming from OneDrop. Okay, so they planned it. They guarantee this will go into this particular artistic intervention will impact the behavior they're trying to impact. In the third phase, they will execute the participatory art intervention. Then they will present this to the community, and at the end, they will do a follow-up on the behavioral change. So how was this done in the past? Through interacting with the community. Each one of these steps occurred face-to-face, right? With this new SABC Digital Lab, each one of the artists will have different options or methods, that's the way we called it, to address each one of the objectives in each one of these steps. Options or methods that were co-created through all this consultancy process with experts in social art, with the artists themselves, and with people from the community, in order for the platform to contain effective methods. Okay, so at the end, we are offering a service with an experimentation menu for artists that allow them to design the remote social art experience that better matches their art media and the target community, understanding that, well, all these particular issues I already told you about, the cultural and social context, available technologies, and water issue to address. Okay, so for you to understand like what kind of methods or options we include within this platform, we're gonna pass through an example. One important thing for you to know is that each one of these methods integrate different channels and methods, understanding that each one of the communities have like all these different characteristics. So each one of the artists will actually have a very particular method that will actually works when you have like this with this particular community that don't have, I don't know, smartphones, or they don't have television, or they don't have radio. So each one of these options are very variable in terms of their channel in order for the artist to select the best method that better suits the particular challenge they are trying to impact. So let's do an example. First, we are in the first phase of understanding the community. In this case, the artist will select perifoneo, which is a common method of communicating information within remote communities. So this is perifoneo, a megaphone in a car. I know this looks like very old school, but this is very common actually within the community, and we understood this in the research phase. So imagine, according to the brief that this guy received, the artist selects perifoneo in the platform to invite the community to participate on this first stage. He records in the SABC Digital Lab platform. Imagine, let's say, an engaging, musicalized message for the community, inviting them to participate in the research on their water treatment and storage in order to accumulate some points to win a water infrastructure prize, let's suppose it is. We understood that all of these actions will help all this community to gain some points in order for them to get this like final prize. So this was a little parenthesis for you to know how these guys are going to be motivated to participate in each one of the methods. After this message is sent to the community, the artist selected the Dreamline, which is activated for people to gather the answers. So in the platform, he selected Dreamline, and immediately the telephone line will be activated. And after this first phase, let's imagine this girl is Dejanira, mother of 2 children, called the Dreamline to share her family water practices, the relation to water, and some myths her community have about water. In response, after she do all this, she receives an SMS that inform her that she have gathered 100 points, let's suppose, for her community. Okay, so this was the first phase. Now the artists have all this information. With this information here, in the platform, he will receive all the answers that are like these ones here. And he starts to plan his art intervention. So the artist designs a social art workshop where mothers and children will participate, discussing a water issue and designing some illustrations that will be portrayed in a mural, an example very similar as the one we see before, that they will build in the central plaza of Tumaco in this case, which is in Chocó, a vulnerable place in Colombia, to share the new water habit with other peoples in Tumaco. Let's suppose this plan was checked by the social art experts, and well, then the next chapter would be that they needed to execute all this. So for the execution, he selected the digital workshop. So in this case, the artist leads a workshop remotely. So he invites some people that actually answered his Dreamline, and he invites them to a place where there is internet. Okay, so we allow the artists to select these options because we have allies within these remote communities where there is internet actually. So he invites all of these people to these places, and the artists, well, leads this workshop where he invites all the community to do all those drawings that we're planning about how it's going to look, yeah, the mural. Okay, after he do this, he took all this drawings and he plans the final mural. Okay, so he divides all this mural in several parts, and each one of these like sections of the mural is sent to each one of the participants' home, and each one of these people who receive this mural kit will have to build it actually in their homes with their family. So they have like these instructions in this kit for people to build the section that was assigned to them to build while talking about their water habits. So this is how they're going to build each one of the parts. This was done thanks to the artist selection of the do-it-yourself instructions. Okay. After this, let's suppose it's time to present to the community. Imagine that the community, each one of the families build their piece and they take this to the central plaza and they build it. They meet up with the other people from the community that actually had the same task, and they build the whole thing. So after this, the artist selected streaming mode. So with this ally within the community, a person start to film all the process of how the community was building this mural, and this would be how it would look like in the social media. After this, they will do a follow-up, and the artist selected the score box. In this case, it is an SMS method where OneDrop and the artist will actually contact each one of the people involved within this activity, and they will ask people to register within the SMS technology each one of the new behaviors they are having after all this thing. Okay, so this will be how it would look. One of the paths the artists have within this platform. So I want to talk now, I think the most important part of this project, and is measuring. Each one of these methods that the artist selected through all these 5 steps will be measured by the following criteria, which is engagement in the first place. Second of all would be artistic output, which is actually how the artist planned to be and how it actually went, and the behavioral change that this art intervention generated. So at the end, each one of these methods will have a score that will determine following artists or artists in the future will allow them to have information on which one of these methods is actually more successful in terms of engagement, artistic output, and behavioral change compared to other methods, right? So imagine this happens with a lot of artists. Imagine we measure, I don't know, 100 experimental paths. After this happens, I want to read this exactly how it says here. So measuring each of the artistic interventions and their paths will allow artists to learn from every iteration and determine how social art should migrate into remote channels. So I want to talk to you here of some of one of the conclusions of the project, and is that we are used to create like finished services, right? In this case, we give the power to the artist and the experts on the matter to actually determine how social art will evolve into a new channel that it's never done before. So we, as responsible service designers, should always understand who will have to take the important decisions in here. And at the end, what we decided here was that the experimentation will be a vehicle for the artists themselves to understand how social art will migrate into the digital world, and the remote channels available nowadays. Okay, so that was the big solution, and now I wanted to share with you how we arrived to this conclusion, because it was very challenging. We had like so many ways to actually solving this challenge, right? So we have so many options. We have this many directions in which we could take this project, and we decide one of them. So I want to show you how we do this. So first of all, we have to execute a remote design research, right? We were in a pandemic too, so we as service designers had to execute all this remotely. So we did some interviews with artists and people from communities in Colombia, Mexico, and Paraguay, with the people that we could. Now, artists was pretty easy because artists had internet connection. Community was very tough because they didn't. So what we did was that we use other channels to do these interviews, which was telephone for in some cases. We did all these digital workshops. I already show you. We invite some of the people from the community to went to this Wi-Fi spots within the communities for us to lead some workshops and invite them to draw and to share all this information about their social art intervention experiences that they have had in the past. We also left them some homework for them to register all the process, the artistic process, from the beginning till the start. And at the end, we start receiving this kind of stuff from the community, from Chocó community, where people draw and wrote a lot of information about their water habits. And very important, what did they really appreciate from social art experience, and where we could have improvement opportunities. After this, when we have all this information gathered from these interviews coming from the artists, but also coming from the communities, we start to digest all this information, where we, first of all, map the roles involved within an art interventions, which are the artist, for sure, the community, of course, and OneDrop, which was this validator actor. This validator actor that actually walks next to the artist to guarantee that the social art interventions actually will impact the behavioral change. We understood what were the gains, the pains, the available technologies within communities, and the role of OneDrop within all this, in order for us to, well, understand what were our ingredients to design the service next to this step. After this, we define how a social art experience was done step by step, understanding what were the roles of each one of these actors within the experience. And then, as a final step, we identified the insights within this experience, understanding what were really appreciated by the artist, by the community, and by OneDrop within a physical art intervention, and where did we identify this in improvement opportunities. After this, we went to a co-creation phase, where well, we did one specific co-creation phase for each one of the countries, as we understood that each one of the communities were very different between countries. So we do this for each one of the countries, where we invite social art experts, we invite artists, and we invite communities to pass through this 5-step experience, and translating each one of these steps into remote or digital channels. Okay, so we were free of restrictions in this first exercise. We just imagine how each one of these steps could be translated into this digital world with no restrictions. And after we just design this step-by-step art experience, remote art experience, we how do you say that? Like this, we tell everybody that, okay, so this is the dream experience. Now imagine this experience with the following limitations. And we told them this could only happen through SMS interaction. This could only happen through television because it's the only technology available. This could be, I don't know, through radio. So we apply all the restrictions that the actual context bring, and the dream experience was transformed into a very real into the real one. So when we do this, we identified that there were a lot of different methods through different channels, and we start asking the following question: how to prioritize ideas to determine how social art for behavioral change should evolve into digital remote channels. Like we need to choose something. And at the end, with the team I was working with, we decided that we shouldn't prioritize. We shouldn't select one of the options that was created in the sessions, because we were not the experts. We actually didn't know what channel would be the best one for social art interventions to actually execute. How we were going to guarantee engagement within 7 kind of different channels. So at the end, as we didn't prioritize, we create this experimentation method where we integrate all these different and very clever methods to aboard each one of these steps. So in the materialization process, we do a lot of prototypes. We test them with the community. We test them with artists through the available channels, which were, of course, video calls when people had internet, SMS. We tried all these interactions through SMS channels, through WhatsApp. We also prototype, and with calls. So we need to integrate new skills within our design team, because we had to narrate through storytelling how this experience would actually happen, and narrate this whole experience for a community member, and take and have all this feedback in order for us to adjust each one of the methods we had designed. At the end, after doing all this process, we arrived to this final solution, which is this digital laboratory for artists to explore different channels, to explore different media, to explore different kind of interactions, which are this kind of interactions, which are SMS, face-to-face, perifoneo, which are non-conventional communication methods, in order for the platform to measure and determine with time and with other artists participating with this, the best way in which social art should migrate into digital, into the digital world. So this was the process we followed in Háptica with my team, and I have 3 main conclusions I would like to share with you. The first one of them is that services conceive to learn and change. So within these crazy times that we are living now, where there's a pandemic, nowadays in Colombia, we are like in a war between people and the police. So times are getting crazy right now. So when designing for a context of uncertainty and changing times, designing definitive services may be risky in terms of costs and effort. So adaptable services, really conceived adaptable service built to explore, learn, and change may be the answer for these crazy times. And is that here I wanna bring something is that conventional services are measured, right? But this particular service has their own mechanisms to measure each one of the steps, learn from each one of the steps, and having and designing the way in which each one of the of this services attributes will change in the future after having this measure, guarantee that actually this service will adapt with time, right? The second conclusion I want to bring here is that the design process is also an explorative journey. I know, of course, a lot of you, if you are working in this, know that we need to improvise within our methodologies in order to face like this challenges on our day-to-day life. But in particular, in this case, with all these limitations and working with remote communities that don't have internet and all these things, we had to took our methodology and start adapting all our tools in order to address like all these difficult connection challenges we were facing along this project. So I believe that the result, this experimentation menu for artists, was actually a reflection of the design process, actually. So the adaptable, I wanna read you this, and is the adaptable output of this project was for sure a reflection of what we were experiencing within the team and our technology. And at the end, the third and final conclusions I want you to all have is that we need to measure or leave the meeting. Without measuring, there's no way to learn from the process. And if we design the measuring and the reaction process of the measuring results, we allow fast adaptation to occur. So we need to ally with disciplines that handle measurement and indicators along the whole design process. Even in the research and in the research moment, we have very valuable insights from people that are measuring. In this particular project, we ally with some behavioral change indicator experts that allow us to see this project in a different lens. So this is an invitation for you all to understand that in measuring there is power, because we're giving our services the possibility to, well, one, get information on how our service is working. But if we install this measurement vehicles in each one of these steps, we will guarantee that each one of the levels of the service will start to learn. And if we also design what is the next step after having all these results, we will guarantee that this service will adapt in time correctly. So, dear team, this was the project that I have prepared and the case that I have prepared for you. I hope this result in a very inspiring moment for you. And here you have some social media info if you want to connect. So Oleg, so let me know, how should we continue with the next question section?
Yeah, first of all, I would say wow. Yes, I mean, it's because your case, I mean, it has so many different aspects. So, I mean, you were like designing the design process for the social art interventions. I mean, it's like designing the design is
designing for them to design.
Very powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were some comments like, basically, I mean, when you were showing the mural, it's like, I mean, it's a popular hobby for Ukrainians now, is like drawing the pictures by the numbers, but it was like in the social scale, in the mural scale, which is, I mean, like amazing one. People say that it's an amazing case, and I believe some questions will follow. For the moment, I have first of all, I have a reflection, which I would say it's so basically one of the takeaways I take from your case, and you know it already, but I believe it worth repeating again. So that when you design the service, the stage of the service which is evaluating the service should be also designed. So every time you design the service, you should think in the moment that how you would understand that the service is beneficial to the customer, to society, to the business, to the environment, anything. So this is it. And probably just so that it sounds a little bit concrete, because you mentioned several times like water habits, sanitation habits. I believe those are like a basic ones, but could you just name a few so that it's just understandable?
Yeah, of course. So we have water washing habits. There's also water treatments when within the community. So these people have to get water from raining water. So they need to know how to actually treat this water. Water consumption also. Which one is the water that has to be drink? And those are like the kind of water practices that we are trying to enhance. Very apparently like very simple ones, but habits that are really not interiorized within some vulnerable communities that are just trying to survive.
Yeah, and I mean, so those things that again, like shows, I would say, that the artist creates. I mean, it really impacts. So people really start behaving differently. Is it true?
Yeah, that's true. As I already showed you, like in this first slides, we were like passing through this example. Um, One project of this of one drop that is impacting a community, that is impacting actually an area, selects approximately between 30 and 60 communities, which is a lot of people, and with, I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 social art interventions. They're planning to impact at least like 30,000 people, changing their habits. And the most important thing for them is that they really inspire the community leaders, because they have like this short-term impact, which is people that participate from the art intervention, and people next to them will really get to know the new habits, right? And in the short term, probably they will change their habits, but in the future, things could be forgotten, right? So what they are trying to do here is to impact the leaders of the communities, for them to expand the message into other areas that were not impacted with these art interventions, and yeah, like catalyze this into new boundaries and new vulnerable communities.
Thank you. That perfectly makes sense. There is a question that have artists in the end, I mean, I believe some artists already used your platform. Did they choose, I mean, could you really see like the winners, the methods that are often most frequently, or people use different methods and you cannot really prioritize them?
Yes, for now, I think we don't have the final path already, because the communities are so different. I would say that this path that I show you was the most popular within artists in Colombia. But for Mexico, it's another thing. For Paraguay, it's another thing. But yes, the do-it-yourself instructions was very popular. And perifoneo is this megaphone in a car, was selected in this first prototypes we were doing several times, because it is very effective. It generates a very big impact within this community that well, yeah, they are not connected to internet sometimes.
Javier, it's used even in big cities in Ukraine from time to time. So, I mean, it's not that exotic for this audience. But it is good to know that we are not the only ones who are using it. So, I mean, it's funny and it works. It's true.
We could try. We could try the SABC Digital Lab in Ukraine. Maybe we could
Yeah,
have some insights too.
Well, fortunately, in most communities in Ukraine, water is not an issue. We have different ones, but this one is not like the worst thing. There is a big issue in the world, for example, just the use of water while brushing teeth. Uh, so I mean, it's a comment, it's not a question. So I mean, there are many issues related with the water, and your art approach is really great one. And well, I can truly support it. This is something unusual. Well, one more reflection from my side. I mean, like last year, I was so proud of myself that we managed to do the service design sprint remotely, which meant by using broadband internet, Zoom, Miro, all the tools. And I was so proud of myself. And now you are showing us an example how you do the service design sprint with the telephone only. So, I mean,
Exactly.
that's you could definitely be proud of. I mean, you expanded our imagination of what is possible with the design. Angelica is asking, how did you manage to respect the art process? Maybe.
Okay. Yes. Well, that was a very important issue within the project, because there were social art for behavioral change experts that really know how to address the behavioral change. So within the whole process, um, we involved the social art experts, the artists, and that community, in order for us to understand how this was done. We we wouldn't be able to build this platform without understanding perfectly how social art was actually done, and without understanding the social this thing perfectly, we wouldn't be able also to design each one of the methods that we design. um, they took a very important role on the method definition for each one of the phases. So thanks to this co-creation and involvement, we were successful. At the end, we had to prove this with the social art expert in every phase, like, hello, social art expert, so these are the methods, please check them, all of them. Okay, so what will happen in each one of them? And after we received the green light, the go, well, that was the moment when we were successfully done with this project. Before, it was not possible. So yeah, we work very close to these people from that work with this incredible methodology of intervening people habits with art. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I would agree. This is beautiful, and I would say that, I mean, this is so typical not only for the social platform, but for any platform. You always need to study two parties if you want to make them cooperate. So you would have to do it for artists and their audience. Well, I don't see more questions in the chat. Oh, yes, there is one. Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you, but can you share our first co-creation session with the community? Again, it's a question from Angelica. Can you share our first co-creation session? We didn't have.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy because inviting the community to the community leaders to be part of a co-creation process where we give them, I don't know, inspiration, information, and inspiration practices, but also we give them some canvases for them to fulfill. Um, we were struggling on how the community was going to give us the all this information that they were going to write, right? So we designed this special hybrid digital present, but also physical workshop where artists were connected, artists and social art experts were connected remotely to a meeting, and community leaders were connected through just one account that was filming the physical space where they were physically there. No? So we invited the leaders from the community to this internet point to connect to this massive co-creation session, and we were very lucky to have these partners within the community that were always talking to us, so we could like plan all the logistics for all the community leaders to be very comfortable, to be sitting in a participatory table where they will print all the canvases that we need them to fill, and then they will talk to us through this phone that they have there and share all the information with all of them. It was a challenge. It was crazy. We have never done a workshop like that. So yes, it was very crazy to involve people, a lot of people, through one account, one video call account, and the other artists. But we learn a lot of things here. We learn on how to actually plan a hybrid workshop of these styles. And we actually prototype how one of the methods that the artist will have within the platform was going to actually be executed. So thanks to this first co-creation experience, we actually could have some, we learned some things to actually design the hybrid workshops that the artists were going to have in the future.
Makes sense. I believe one of the learnings was that, well, unfortunately for the remote workshops, you should have less improvisation and more structure from the very beginning.
Totally.
Yeah, it's true, but well, I simply, if you have a recording of that session and if you can share it, I would definitely watch it.
Well, I don't think I have some recordings for this session right now here, but I can share it.
I don't mean right now, but if you could share it later for the audience, I believe I'm not the only one who will be interested to see how it goes, because definitely you can always learn from the extreme cases of using some methodology.
I have some videos that I could share where the community at the end in this co-creation sessions, some of them decided to do a song. That was the method that they were doing. So at the end, the community was singing to us through this weird hybrid space, and we were all inspired and crying with these amazing outputs. Of course, I have some recordings from this song and this process that I can share with you guys.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. And thank you for the brilliant presentation. This is something unusual. I mean, this is not the sort of the case you would usually expect to hear and to learn. And I would support Luisa that this is really inspiring. Thank you. On behalf of all the audience, I'm really glad that you joined us, and I'm really happy that you presented the case. Again, thank you very much. Thank you for being part of the Service Design Marathon organized by the Service Design Network, by Ukrainian chapter of Service Design. And we are looking forward to see you as a participant on our other presentation. The nearest one will be next Monday. It will be again from the exotic place for us and probably exotic place for you. It will be from the South Africa, again, for a very unusual way of encouraging the entrepreneurship. So everybody, you are invited. Looking forward, and please join us for the next presentation. Javier, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing the case. And it was, I mean, it's amazing, very unusual and very great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. I'll be there in the next presentation.
Super. Looking forward. See you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a nice day, everybody.
Bye, Oleg. Thank you.
Angelica, gracias.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.